Greetings. One of the themes in this channel is how we are going to explore deceptively fast technological changes because many people are not truly aware of how quickly technology progresses and how exponential trends seem like nothing is happening for a very long time, and then suddenly a change appears out of nowhere. But in fact, if one was following the exponential trend, they would find the change to not be as much of a surprise. So we go back to an article that I wrote in January of 2018. This was one of the Atom Awards of the month because it's an example of technological deflation as well as exponential progress. And the example we use is televisions. Look at this ad over here that I'll click on. This is a 1960 television set in the United States. Most countries in the world were far too poor for the average person to even afford such a thing. But in the United States, this was a consumer product that was heavily marketed. It was a 21-inch tube with a very small viewable area relative to the volume of the entire television set, and it was also very deep. It was perhaps 2 feet deep, and the whole thing was so heavy that it required 2 movers to move. And it cost $795 in that time's money. That was 26% of the GDP per capita of the United States in 1960, so that is like about $17,000, $18,000 today. If you want to truly make an apples-to-apples comparison of the price, that's how much it costs, $17,000 to $18,000 in today's money. It was a huge purchase. The typical household only had one, and the entire family gathered around it to watch 3 channels. And there was also no remote control to change channels. You had to walk up to the television set and move the analog knob, which could break. People certainly did not have 2 television sets in their home, and children didn't have their own television sets in their room. So going back to the main article, we now see how much things have progressed. Now these TV sets are very thin. The viewable screen is now much, much larger than the mere 21 inches that we saw in the old 1960 television set. And the weight is very low. It is very easy for a single person to move even a 50-inch or 55-inch thin screen display. And the technological churn that has occurred is tremendously fast. We had plasma TVs, then LCD displays, and now LED displays, and even other more advanced types of LED displays. And the cost is very low. We often see ads of a 55-inch ultra-thin television set for sale for only $200. Used ones on Craigslist are much cheaper than that still because the seller can hardly get anyone to even come over to take away the television set. At trade shows, when they have a 42-inch or 50-inch display as part of their booth, many times they give away the TV for free just because they don't want to package it up and take it back. And even then, there are few to no takers of a free TV, even among the local people who don't have to ship anything. They just have to take it to their car. A 50, 55, even 60-inch, super thin, high-resolution display is so inexpensive that the price almost doesn't matter, and used units have almost no value. And this technology continues to advance exponentially. That's why there's so little resale value. It is moving at the rate of computation. Those CRT TVs from the 1960s and 70s, they were used until they malfunctioned. The price decline for performance was only a couple of percent per year, but they were used until they failed because they were quite expensive, remember. Now these LED TVs are not used until they fail. They cannot fail for years and years and years on end. They're simply upgraded when something cheaper and a sharper resolution and perhaps a larger screen size becomes available. And this progression continues to occur. I shall go to this bottom chart over here for an illustration. As the technology continues to progress, and it progresses at the same rate as computational power, so almost at Moore's law rates for the LEDs, and of course there are low-tech components in the television set, but 10, 15, 20% a year improvement per fixed cost was certainly to be expected. People chose televisions that were larger and larger. In the old days, as we saw, that 1960 television set was just 21 inches of viewable screen. Even in the 1980s, the biggest television set that households had in their home, I remember, was only 27 inches of viewable screen. That is extremely small by today's standards. And now because of flat screens, people have begun to go bigger. In 2005, when the first flat screen wall-mounted television sets were available, 42 inches was the standard size. That continued to grow, Now every household has a 60 or 65-inch TV screen, and you can see that from this chart over here. The percentage of television unit sales through 2019 that are between 40 and 49 inches continues to increase as a percentage, and the purple bar, which is the percentage that is 50 inches or more, continues to rise. So in 2009, only 7% of television unit sales were 50 inches or larger. By 2019, it's 33 inches, and that is continuing to rise, as I say. More and more people have 60, 65, 70-inch screens in their homes. Their basements are converted to home theaters, the resolution continues to get better and better, and the price per unit size continues to decline. This is a technology that has become heavily commoditized. It is a wave of technological disruption that has passed through the world almost unnoticed, even though everyone is looking at these screens all day long. The same applies to desktop monitors. As recently as 2010, there were CRT monitors on people's desks that were deep. They were as deep as they were wide. And if you were a cubicle worker, this dominated your desk space. Now, these LED screens are extremely thin and convenient, and people have many of them. I happen to have 3 of them right now in my setup right here that is in front of me at all times. And I, like many people, have grown completely accustomed to using 3 monitors for productivity. If I had to go back down to 1, that would be very limiting. If it was as deep as it was wide, that would be extremely limiting as well. And CRT tube monitors pretty much maxed out at a 17-inch screen, whereas now the monitors that people have on their desktop PCs are 27 to 31 inches. 17 seems extremely small. Oh, and not to mention the transition from 4:3 aspect ratio to 16:9 aspect ratio. If you actually go back to my blog, The Futurist, you will see that the blog is itself in 4:3 aspect ratio because I started in 2006, back when most websites were like that. It is a holdover from the pre-16:9 resolution age, and that's part of the reason I have transitioned to YouTube, and I probably should have done that sooner. But there you have it. The technological progression of displays is a huge disruption that has washed over the world. It has dematerialized the displays that everyone looks at. It has made it possible to have 2 and 3 monitors per PC. It has made the smartphone possible. The smartphone has a high-resolution display on it, which was not even possible until just a few years ago. And just a complete transformation from a cathode ray tube technology that was improving 2 or 3% a year to an LED technology that is improving 10, 15, 20% a year is also a tremendous example of atom acceleration, because now you have a much higher percentage year-over-year improvement in a technology that has a large market footprint. And as I have described towards the end of the article, this is a very large industry because there are 225 million new sets sold each year. Companies like Samsung and LG are very large companies, and a good chunk of their revenue is from display sales. So this is an example of technological dematerialization as well as technological acceleration, when something that was improving very little year over year was superseded by something that improves quickly year over year, and it never goes back to a slow rate of change. That is one of the first principles of technology. The rate of technological change of something never reverts back down to something lower. So this is something to think about whenever you are enjoying your high-tech, high-resolution, thin display, and you watch a television show or movie from 15, 20, or 30 years ago where they show someone's home and they actually show a tube television or a tube monitor on a computer. And notice that as something that has changed very dramatically about the world in just a few years. So this ranks pretty high on the list of recent technological waves of creative destruction. I hope you found this video informative, and if you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much for watching.